Hello and welcome to Chapter 6 of the textbook. This is actually going to be Chapter 6 and Chapter 7. So we're going to be talking about your social media policy, as well as we're going to finish up with the roles of social media and digital marketing within an organization and beyond. So, okay, let's get going. So social media policy, Chapter 6. We have, as I said before, social media policy is very new. It certainly wasn't around 20 years ago because social media wasn't. However, what was around was your code of conduct. Every large company you go to, you have to create a code of conduct. You have to sign a code of conduct. So if you're working for a large company, in your orientation package will likely be some things for you to sign, one being a code of conduct, one being your code of ethics, so how you behave towards each other, how you behave in the public, what you're allowed to say in the public, what you're allowed to say to media, what you're allowed to say to people that are not employees, what's private, what's confidential. So nothing changes on social media. What needed to be created though was a social media policy which extends your code of conduct, and that's all this is. That's why it's such a short chapter in the textbook. So that's why I'm also combining two chapters together. So why do you need a social media policy? A good social media policy is one that empowers your employees. You let your employees know, hey, these are the platforms we're on. This is why we're on this platform. We encourage you to share our information. We encourage you to comment, and we encourage you to extend your professional behaviors on social media. Woohoo! So as you know, people trust people 86% more than they trust a brand. So having your employees involved is awesome. So why do you need it though? Because if people don't realize it, I've been part of companies in the past where the employees were saying things that were negative about the company they work at. Not sure why you'd ever work anywhere that you weren't happy at. There's so many things out there. Do something you're good at. Do something you love. This life is too short. Anyways, people would be complaining online. Others would see that on the company. They get fired and they're surprised. So I think you need to be transparent. So social media policy helps you be transparent. You people need to know they're being listened to online, and they need to know what the ramifications are. It's nothing different than talking badly, or say if you wouldn't take out an ad and put it in the newspaper about how you feel about your boss or your employees or your clients, you probably shouldn't be doing it on social media either. I sometimes use the example, if you would stand on a stool in a public bar and yell out something negative about somebody, and know your boss is in the bar, in the house, then you wouldn't get in trouble. You definitely would get in trouble. So the social media policies I've seen, they actually say if you slander the company or slander other people that work for the company, fellow employees, you will be terminated. If you breach your code of conduct through social media, you will be terminated. If you breach your code of conduct anyways, you'll be terminated. When I was working at Bell Canada, there was a lot of client information that we saw which was confidential. So it would breach my code of conduct if I was to share that confidential information with other people. So what kind of projects we were working on, what kind of, who were my clients, what revenue they were spending at Bell Canada, what we were trying to do to, grow their network, all those kind of things were confidential. So if you were caught talking about that stuff, you could be terminated. So you can't talk about it to others that aren't part of your team, and you certainly can't talk about it on social media. So it's pretty standard stuff. Some people just, it's pretty logical. So why do you need one? Social media policy empowers your employees. Social media policy is an extension of your current code of conduct and your marketing guidelines. If you have only one person in the business that is supposed to talk to the newspapers, and so then somebody calls into the business and you happen to be there, or they've come to the business and you happen to see it and it's a newspaper reporter, there would be guidelines. Who does the newspaper reporter talk to? And you send them to that person. Same thing on social media. Who's allowed to talk on behalf of the company? So you may be able to be a professional and you can state your opinion, but you're not talking on behalf of the company. So that doesn't change just because you're on social media. So you need to think about that. It simplifies everything for everybody. It's a new tool. New tools always cause new rules. So these are the 7 elements that need to be part of a social media policy. And this, of course, will be on the exam and on the midterm. Number 1, state the objective of the social media policies. What are the goals and the vision and the purpose of the social media policy? Once people realize, oh, okay, this is the social media policy, it's just what our social media rather is about. You're going to hear from the social media policy, okay, so it's about marketing. There are some social media platforms that companies use for customer service. So which one is it? So if your social media platform is not for customer service, then you know not to answer customer service questions on your social media platform. Instead, you know to ask them to talk to your customer service department. So a lot of people, of course, are doing customer service on social media. But if people don't know that, then they wouldn't know to respond to that and excel at that. So what's the objective, number 1? Number 2, which platforms are you on officially? Which ones are the company's official social media platforms? I work with a lot of companies where their employees don't even know which social media platforms they're on. So then identify who's that point of person, that's your coordinator. Remember in the staying and managing and staying sane chapter, we talked about the central coordinator. So who is that? So if people are looking to, wow, I've been at this great event, got some great pictures of it, and our company was there, I got some great pictures with our company's logo in it, who do I give it to so they can put it on our social media platform? So you need to know who that is. So that should be identified in the social media policy. Also, the code of conduct. It involves work ethics, respect, and professionalism. Code of conduct for social media is the same as your regular code of conduct. So if there's anything that you need to repeat in the code of conduct, this is where you'd put it. And then encourage employees to become fans or to like or follow or connect to all of the platforms that the company is on. Now you can't enforce it, but you can encourage them. There are many people who are not mixing their work and their private life. That's okay. But if there are people out there like myself who likes to support their community or likes to support their businesses that they work with, in my case, if I was working at a company versus just at my own company, I definitely would be promoting their social media activities. So encourage, because as we know, you encourage them, their friends are going to be more likely to be to like that company they work at than if they just see the company's posts. So encourage the employees to share, to mention, to retweet, and always keeping their code of conduct principles in line where they can't breach confidentiality. They can't identify who that client was if it wasn't identified by the company. So confidentiality and copyright is the same on social media as any other communications vehicle. If you are seeing a fabulous photo, you can't steal it if it's not something that you have permission to steal and post it as yourself and then mention your company. Now you're indicating that the company, you just want to keep it clean. Don't use third-party content unless you have the permission. You can share it, but you can't just take the photo and use it. And if you do, a lot of people use my photos. I get annoyed when they don't say photo credit by Sophie. They just think because I'm friends they can download my photos to their own computer and then post them. And I go, hee, where's the photo credit? So at least give the person the photo credit. Hello. But for a company, you need to follow the code of conduct. Keep it simple, follow and extend the code of conduct. Monitoring. A company is always listening online. They have the right to listen online. So you need to know that whatever you're saying online might be heard, and they have steps that they would put in place. If it's something negative, it would be the same steps that they would have put in place for the code of conduct, and often that leads to termination. So you need to know that so you know what you can do. So there's social media policy and then there's privacy. So privacy, you want to make sure that you comply. Oh, what the heck is this one? Oh, yes, this was a privacy. This is sorry, this is a hotel that has done a fabulous job. I actually used them in the past for their social media policy. That's what struck me interesting. And now I'm using them as an example of their social media privacy. So their policy was one that I really enjoyed looking at. I can't find their social media policy right now, but they did a fantastic job, and they followed these 7 steps on their social media policy. It was one of the best ones I found a few years ago. So, but privacy is one that you need to make sure that you're not disclosing confidential information, period, end of story, of clients or of fellow employees, because you don't have that right. So you need to be very careful. So the whole privacy is very important, and you can't infringe on copyright. So these are some examples of the social media. This is really their privacy. It's not their policy anymore. So that's why I was a little confused. But if I go to that, I'll show you what I mean. Oh, good. This is finished uploading. So their social media policy, and it flips over to their privacy policy. And this is a good example of what is part of their privacy policy. How will your information be handled? That's important. Nobody wants to deal with someone online unless they believe it's secure, unless they believe they understand how their information will be handled. So they did a nice job here of talking about their privacy policy and how they respect the privacy and the protection of personal information. So they did a really good job of that, and how they use cookies. So I'm not going to get in much detail on that, other than as part of our classy principles was to respect people's privacy, and these guys do a great job at that. Okay, privacy policy. So another part that I wanted to talk about is so sometimes how will people know what your social media policy is on your actual platforms? So I would like you to find in most places a place to write this in your company page, on your Facebook page, or perhaps have a link to it back on your website from your platforms. And what this is it tells people what your social media platforms are about. And this is the public. So why is this important? This basically tells the public that this platform is let's say, a tourism platform. This social media, we are a tourism company. We like to promote the area. People who are not promoting the area, their posts, we have the right to remove them as posts on this page. So where this comes from are, if you don't give direction as to what the page is about, and they see it's about XYZ city or town, they might just come on, and I've seen this done before, where all they did was complain about potholes. The whole time they're complaining about potholes on this Facebook page, when I later found out, when they asked me to come in and work with them, that this Facebook page was supposed to be about tourism. Well, they didn't have any indication that it was about tourism. They weren't posting because they were scared to post, because every time anyone talked about anything, it was about a pothole. So if they had, this one's a welcome, we welcome you in your comments to this Facebook page for town XYZ or whichever company it is. This site is intended to inform and engage friends, family, friends, whatever, about business entities, and we encourage you to submit comments and questions, concern, but please note this is moderated online discussion. Please note this is a moderated online discussion. It's not a public forum. And then we reserve the right to delete submissions that contain vulgar language, personal attack of any kind, any comments that we deem to be offensive. So you're allowed to indicate, kind of set the ground rules. So you can't slander anyone that works here. Sorry, we're going to take you down if you slander someone, you know. So if someone's asking a question about your service and you want to take it offline, you can do that. But you can also, or you can answer it right there so that it becomes a service answer that everyone sees. Woohoo! But if someone's slandering someone that works with you guys, you've got this up there somewhere as a public comment policy, you have the right to take it down. And I would say something about, I don't know. I would take it down. Depends how long it's been there. If you didn't catch it right away, you may want to let the people know that you're talking to that individual offline, and just let them know that it's being dealt with so it doesn't look too strange. Letting people know things are being dealt with is smart. So crisis management is another thing that is important. You need to have a social media policy. You need to have a statement out there that shows how you're dealing with how you're going to be dealing with social media posts, if they're vulgar, or what your whole page is all about. So the social media policy is usually meant for your internal staff. How you're dealing with posts, your post policy is meant for the public. And then your crisis management, that's for your internal staff again. So what happens here, if there's a crisis, if there's something that happened, perhaps the environment, you guys did something and the environmentally friendly people are saying this, your company is doing something horrible to the environment. You think, I don't think that's right, but somebody is out to get you guys, and there's things where there are all sorts of different attacks that happen on companies sometimes, where they will have all sorts of different groups attack a company. And I've been brought in to help manage that. And in that case, what you want to be aware of is, first of all, you want to have the policies in place and have the rules in place. If it happens on a Sunday afternoon, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to need to address it and take it offline as fast as possible, and keep other content going. So don't put fuel on it, but don't ignore it. You need to keep other content going. So you don't want to leave it to your social media interns if something's really sensitive, because they may end up unintentionally say something that fuels this fire. So you need to be really, really careful. I always suggest, especially depending on the nature of the company. I work with the oil industry, as you know. So in that case, we have drills. We pretend the worst has happened, and we have drills on who would be in charge of saying what on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. How are we going to deal with it so that it's not a panic at the time we deal with it? So I've worked with a company out who is a company that is a big hotel, and they had a bomb threat, which wasn't true. It ended up being, thank goodness. But during the bomb threat, they did everything. That they brought in all the people you bring in when there's a bomb threat. It was pretty high level, and they had everything searched properly throughout the hotel. In the meantime, they kept on talking. They kept people informed, but they kept other content going on because they did not believe it was real, and thank goodness it ended up not being real. And it ended up that, because it could have really ruined their business. So you need to be very careful. So crisis management, change your Facebook settings to only allow post. So change your Facebook settings to only allow post to page once the page accepts it. So if you're in a sensitive type of company, I don't do this for my retail companies, I don't do this for myself, but you can, if you're in a very sensitive driven situation, you can make it so that your page doesn't accept any posts, which I don't think is a good idea. Or you could make it so posts to page from other people, not your own staff, but posts to from some stranger you don't know is on your page and they do a post. You can make it so that can't happen, or you can make it that it will only go public when you approve it. So you moderate the posts. So that's what we do with sensitive companies. Other companies, we just have it go live. So it really depends, but you can control that. And then we have a drill on all platforms just to make sure we know how to manage it if something goes astray. We implement your social media communications plan so that there's always content going out. We've talked about communications plan. If you don't have that, and you only have crisis management, you're in trouble, because the only thing people see are the crisis. So you need to have your other activity in place. You need to know what your social media policies are. You need to know whose roles are what, who has access to the different platforms. Regularly schedule goal-oriented posts so that you're engaging your target market. So that target market then, if something goes bad, your target market who's been regularly engaging with you, they become your saviors during some of this, where they're standing up for you now in the public, which is really cool. So train and assign your existing customer service people to receive and review and engage with customer service post to page. So if there's post to page, right now what we do is we have an email go to the customer service people at most of my clients. And then the customer service person has been trained on how to go into Facebook and answer those questions right away, so they don't just sit there. To receive, train your customer service people to receive and engage all comments to page, so post to page, comments to page. Also be familiar with regularly scheduled posts. What do I mean by that? If the company is going to decide to talk about some things next Tuesday and they're posting it, and the staff doesn't know about it, they might not be ready to answer the questions about the topic on Tuesday. Say it's a new topic. So they should be in sync with what the social media people are doing, and have mock quarterly. I suggest quarterly would be good. Mock crisis drills. What's going to happen when there's a crisis? So so that's kind of what I suggest. One company, I love their clothes. They've got the really high-end clothes, and I bumped into the sales rep of that company's clothing brand. And I said, oh, I just happened to see this post. And I show her this post of this fabulous, I don't remember what it was, coat or top that I wanted. And she goes, oh, I wish our social media people would stop that. We don't even carry that line anymore. And it was just out 2 hours before. And I saw this person at a women's business networking event. And she was saying that they don't even carry that brand anymore. I said, that's ridiculous. I mean, it was gorgeous. How could they not know? So you want to have your right hand. That's where know what's going on with the left hand of the company. So that is your social media policy. Okay, now I'm going to continue to roles in an organization. So roles in an organization, what is this all about? So roles in an organization, we talked about it in the chapter 5, I believe, where we talked a little bit about management. So that would be, I'm going to talk to you about the coordinator, obviously, and some other roles. So executives in social media. Survey demonstrates that executive engagement social media rises the profile of a brand, increases the trust and confidence in a company. So builds greater trust and brand loyalty when you have a boss or a executive suite, C-suite executives who engage in social media. So you want, I know this happens to be 2012, this survey, but it's even more accurate now. They want transparency. They want to know what's going on as far as and they want the leader to be someone that's going to be honest, obviously. So roles in an organization, this one's kind of cute. You can't, if I put this on right now because I have the headset on, you won't be able to hear it, but this little video is on the video list there that you have access to through the textbook. But the video is one where, oh, you're in charge of all of your social, this chick comes up to him and says, what do you do for a living? He says, oh, I'm a social media intern. She goes, wow, that sounds really cool. What is that? He goes, I do all the posting on social media for the company. Have you had any training? She asked. She goes, no. Do you know what the company's about? Not really. So you're allowed to post to the public everything that they need to know about the company, but you've had no training? Yes. Isn't that a big job? Yes. And it was pretty funny. It's very cool. So you really need to understand the strategy and the goals and speak the company product, speak the company services before you should be posting, is all that means. So as far as all the roles go, there's 4 roles. There's the social media leader. That's the leader of the company. So they're the social leader. They're not the social media leader. I said social media leader. I meant the social leader. They're the human that the public sees as the leader of the company. So who are you going to have as the leader of the company to the public? Who is the person that's going to be the spokesperson? When they speak, it resonates. They don't have to say too much, but when they do talk, it's like, whoa, so and so from this company just said, what they're doing next quarter, or she, just did this and this, or this community, or they just gave back money to this, or they just have this new invention that's coming out. So they resonate whatever they say. Then there's the coordinator. They're the one that knows the measures. They're the one that gets updated training on social media all the time. They might train others, but they're the ones that will show the social leader or whoever their direct boss is their measures to make sure that they're on track with the goals of the company. So they need to understand the goals of the company, and then they need to make sure that it happens. Content contributors, those are people that may never post, but they're going to be giving you maybe blogs, maybe they're people that you video, maybe they are people that take photos, so they're contributors. There's contributors inside the company and outside the company. Contributors in the company are people from different departments. People outside the company might be experts in the topic of what you're talking about or what you are as far as a company, and they will also contribute. Or it might even be your suppliers. Or it might be, for example, with Knock on Wood or Kawartha TV and Stereo, two of the companies I post for. One sells electronics and televisions and stereos and all sorts of very cool gadgets and cameras and appliances. So all of his brand name suppliers are contributors for us because they all have really cool videos that I can use as content for their social media because I'm the coordinator for their social media. Or on Knock on Wood, he has quality Canadian brand name furniture. So in that case, I've been reaching out to their brand name furniture suppliers and makers and manufacturers and using their content as content. So they're contributors, and again, I'm the coordinator, so I will post it. And then there's also growth giants and ambassadors. These are people that are influencers, giants, ambassadors. All those names are kind of the same, a little bit different, but I'm using them the same here. These are people that if they talk about your product, or if they share your product, or if they endorse your product, you're going to grow. Now, what I saw was a couple different interesting studies that if somebody has between all of their social media platforms just something like 10,000 followers, but they're specific niche followers of a certain type, they might actually be a brand ambassador for you. Or, of course, you have those others that have hundreds of thousands of followers. They might be ambassadors for you. Depends on the type of company you have. Depends on where you're located. Then you can identify your giants. So that's really critical for growth. So a social leader. So at a starting point, a social leader, usually a leader will do certain things in a company. They're the ones that are going to talk about their strategic goals. They're the one that are going to do the annual review. They're the ones that are going to do a summary when there's a big new project that they're working on. So you've got these guys there's their traditional type of communication. So social media should mirror that. So if they're going to have a big announcement, they may want to say something right after the announcement where they live stream on social media. Always supportive of the organizational goals because they help create those organization goals, so they need to be supportive of that. Their posts must resonate. They don't have to post often. They can post weekly. Their online chats, and that's kind of cool. They can actually have an online live chat maybe monthly or quarterly, and that would really be very cool. And that should, like if they're going to have an annual, if they are having a quarterly review or something where they're talking about their earnings or something where they're at a conference, it's kind of cool to have one of these live streams after that to summarize what happened. A blog from the leader, that's something else that happens. Again, it could be a blog or a vlog that the company then uses on their social media platforms. Behind the scenes, insights. People love insights. Oh, here's so-and-so talking about what he thinks or she thinks is going to happen in this industry. That's pretty cool. Forecasts, predictions, opinions. They need to be assigned someone to be the face. So they need to be, or they need to assign someone to be the face on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, you create a human profile, and then you can create from that a company page. And people are administrators on the company page, but you don't know which human is posting on the company page. So with LinkedIn, to join groups, and sometimes LinkedIn has fantastic groups that you want to join, the social leader or the company leader needs to define who in the company is going to be the spokesperson on LinkedIn. If this is a large company, obviously it's not going to be the CEO of a very large company. He's not going to join the individual groups. Brings it down to the department level. Who in your department is the spokesperson on LinkedIn that should join these groups and represent the company? So that's something that we have a discussion with our clients all the time. So the coordinator, here are all the coordinators' roles. These are what their jobs are. This is something that you're going to want to be familiar with for your midterm. So they obviously assign and control all the passwords. It's critical to know where the passwords are. I've said it before that in the live lecture I was talking about it. I'll mention it here. I've worked with so many different companies where you go out to the company and say, okay, so what are the passwords for Facebook, for your Google Analytics, for your Twitter? Oh, I have the password for Facebook. No idea how to get into Google Analytics. Not sure at all how to get into this one computer. We can get into it, but if that computer goes down, we can't get into it because this computer automatically logs in. So it's really critical to gather all those passwords, have them under lock and key somewhere, and not just on one person's, not only one person should know it, someone needs to be that person's backup. Because if that person quits or if something happens to them or their computer fries or however they back themselves up, if they're no longer there, that information's gone. So it's critical. Accountable, so the coordinator is also accountable for agreeing with the boss what the monthly report should be. What does the boss want to see on a monthly level with regards to reports on social media and on the website, and they need to gather those together for the boss. Give advice based on measures on how to improve next month's results. So every month they want to continuously improve. Coordinator coordinates the communications calendar. That's a big thing. So that communications calendar is all on the coordinator. And they should be a member of the communications department, a bridge between traditional communications and social communications. It's still very separate in some organizations. It should be together. So this person needs to be the bridge if it's not together, or the person who's the coordinator on social media certainly needs to be aligned with what's going on through print or television or radio if that exists in communications. Often what happens is you've got a communications department who's helping with the materials for products and services, and then you've got someone else who's doing outreach. So the outreach is what I'm talking about here, the outreach, the calendar for the outreach. Outreach also includes going to trade shows and conferences as the company. So you want to build buzz towards that trade show and event. So that coordinator really needs to be the bridge between everything that's going on. So depending on the size of the company, you're going to have a bunch of different departments involved in there. So they just need to know who the coordinator is so that their event or the exhibition that they're going to gets the coverage it needs on social media, so they're successful and they don't look like, well, you're here, I don't see you're here, social media doesn't even show that you're here at your company. Cool, eh? So Insights aligns the social calendar with the overall organization's calendar. So if the organization has an overall calendar, which most organizations do, the social media calendar needs to align with that. Works closely with the IT department to ensure they have the proper access and security and privacy settings for those people who need it across the board. There are still a lot of companies that I work with that social media cannot be accessed through their company computer. So hard to do if you're the social media person, you can't access it. So you need to work closely with the IT department to make sure you have access to what you need to. You need to continuously improve and grow your followers. You need to really engage, identify first and engage your giants. Because giants is 80% of your growth. You get your giants, understanding how to, especially if there's a conference coming up, and that conference is great at social media and they're retweeting and sharing everything that's going on at the conference. You want to know ahead of time that conference is going, because what a great opportunity to grow during that conference. Does all the posting and trains and monitors others on how to post properly. Engages in or ongoing social media training, so they themselves get themselves trained. So then a contributor is staff or industry experts either inside or outside of the company, community partners who have content which fulfills your content needs. So as a coordinator, you think of where am I going to get my content from, and you try and get them to contribute. So a lot of times people will have guest writers, but it could just be staff that happens to be out at exhibits, or they're out at clients and they're allowed to take pictures, so they could be contributors. It could be people who are the kind of folks that get delivery of boxes of new products and they're opening up the boxes. People love that. They want to see what's going on behind the scenes. So maybe you have them once a week open up boxes and kind of share that content to the coordinator. That'd be cool. So staff should be trained to post themselves when it makes sense. To other times you want it to be routed through the coordinators. So I think I mentioned to you before at Central Smith Creamery, we had the staff in their parlor trained to live stream every Tuesday for Tasty Toonie Tuesdays, and that really helped increase their revenue through the summer by almost 25%. We live streamed trained them to live stream on Tuesday. I think they live streamed on Sunday as well, or at least created a video about Creative Sundays, and they would show Creative Sundays. So those two were consistent throughout the entire summer, and all the staff was involved, and it went over really well, and that really gave a lot of content that was directed at people seeing what was going on in the parlor, and they said that their people dropping into that parlor had never been as high. So that was awesome. Various organizations and community leaders, so those might be contributors, other blogs from the community. So let's see. So ambassadors, we know what ambassadors are. I keep on talking about them, or giants, or people that are influencers. They distribute information and people listen. They're considered to be, they would have a high clout for sure. They're usually not an employee. It'd be odd, but sometimes you might have an employee who's also ambassador. Might be part of your board of directors. Could be part of the economic development or tourism or associations, or could be a sports celebrity, could be an anchor person, could be media. So many different aspects. If you're a restaurant, it could be a foodie, big foodie in the area, all sorts of different ideas. So don't forget, you need to work with your information technology staff. It's critical no matter what size. If you're a larger company, you have an information technology department. You need to work with them to see if there's ways that you can do what you're doing better, faster, make sure you've got the right data plan on your cell phone. So there's all sorts of different cool things you need to work with them about. So let's see, not too much left here. As I said, a social leader is, I call it a social leader, but it's really the leader of the company who realizes how important being transparent and being social is. And that's critical. And this is an old report, but it's consistent that those companies who have a leader who is big on social are trusted and respected if the person themselves are trustworthy and respected. So Richard Branson, they are one that I would suggest that you take a look at. He's fantastic. He does the perfect pitch, then he'll talk about himself skydiving, he'll do this, he'll do that. The guy is in my eyes, he is a great example of a great leader who shows personality, he shows giving back, he shows his work that he does with, I think it was underprivileged kids that I saw, his teamwork with his staff. Then he'll do some really crazy, outstanding things where he's, again, like I said, skydiving comes to mind, but I've seen him do all sorts of other daredevil things. So it's just, he's someone that is an amazing, transparent social leader. And then he'll talk about different innovations that his company has going on, and you really want to listen because you so respect him. So he's an amazing one. How often should a social leader post? They don't need to post very often, maybe once a week, but when they post, it resonates, and it needs to be part of their existing communication plan so it makes sense. So they could obviously post more often, but it really depends. So so this continues to talk about the details that how important it is for a CEO to communicate. That 81% of respondents believe that CEOs who engage in social media are better equipped than their peers to lead a company. So that's really cool. large majority of respondents believe that their CEOs can use social media channels to improve engagement with multiple stakeholders across an organization, build better connections to their own staff, to their clients, to all sorts of different suppliers, to investors. So it's really important to have that. So you can look at the stats yourself, but obviously it's all around stronger in the eyes of the population or your target audience or your employees when your CEO or the person who's in charge of the company is online and with good principles. So some topics beyond the leader's traditional topics. So as I was saying before, you have a leader who has a traditional communications plan, right? They're going to talk about their annual report. They're going to talk about new innovations. They're going to talk about hiring staff. But what's really cool is when you look at someone like Richard Branson, he talks about other things as well. He talks about what he believes in. He talks about cool vacations he takes. So he's a real human. You want to like him. You want the company to do well. So that's about it. Okay, thank you very much.